Now going to bring in Massachusetts State Treasurer Tim Cahill into the discussion about the Beige Book. He is at our Boston bureau right now. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. As you just heard Scott talking about, the Beige Book report for Boston, relatively strong. I was just skimming through the report here. It talked about strength in things like IT services, and also that even if companies are not going to be necessarily hiring, they're at least stabilizing here. What's your read?
I think that's pretty much on target. We're not seeing any great growth here. Our revenues from the state are still down, and they're actually down a little bit more than we anticipated for February. I don't know if that's post-holiday spending or people are just have given up looking for work in some cases. So I don't think it's great news, but I don't think things are getting any worse than they were.
And what about the strength potentially in technology? Because that's really an area that jumped out at me here, just, again, taking an initial glance at what the Beige Book said. How's the tech industry doing in the Boston area?
I think it's doing well within sort of the 128 Beltway, which is the Boston metropolitan region. I'm traveling around the state a lot now, and I'm not seeing it really move out west or down south. So it's probably doing okay and maybe even slightly better. The government's been really focused on IT and biotechnology and trying to help that industry. So it's probably helping in the Boston-Cambridge area, maybe to Waltham, but it's really not trickling out and helping the state as a whole. And unfortunately, it's not adding jobs in a significant number.
We're also, according to the Beige Book, in your district, continuing to see some strength in demand for manufacturing and related services. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure what that is attributable to, and manufacturing, as you know, is really been on the decline here in Massachusetts. So that could be some of the high-tech sector. I'm not really sure because I haven't seen, gone behind the numbers yet. So I think, I think the report the gentleman before me gave, which was cautiously optimistic, is fine for people who still have jobs, but it's not really solving the problem for those 300,000 people here in Massachusetts who haven't found work or have lost their jobs over the last few years, and I think that's really where our focus needs to be going forward.
Well, Tim, have you started to see some feed-through, or have you continued to see feed-through from the stimulus bill, and how necessary do you think the second jobs bill is?
We see a lot of it on the state level, the government level. I mean, obviously, the stimulus has focused primarily here in Massachusetts on sort of shoring up local budgets, both cities and towns, and our state budget. It hasn't trickled out to the private sector. The governor has just put some projects out from the highway and some of the transportation infrastructure, but many of those aren't shovel-ready. So other than building schools, which we're doing a lot of those right now locally here in Massachusetts, we'll be building about $1.3 billion worth of construction in schools over this next year. There isn't a whole lot of construction jobs. And the folks that I talk to are very nervous about this summer, about how there's just going to be less construction jobs. The trades are really struggling right now.
Now, talk to us then about residential real estate.
We were lucky in Massachusetts that we didn't get overbuilt during the latest run-up. So I think that's really been helpful to us. But I think the comment that I heard earlier about the fear of foreclosures is still out there, especially as people are into their second year of unemployment, trying to stay ahead of the game. Banks aren't lending, and they're starting to really become, I would say, very skeptical about even doing some of these rewrites on mortgages. So I'd still be concerned, especially in some of the low-income areas on residential. It's a great buying opportunity, but I know there's a lot of people still renting because they're just not sure and they're not comfortable. They want to see if prices are going to come down even more, and that's not really good for the overall economy either if they still wait to see.
Tim, just to tell you a little bit of the detail here about real estate that's in here is that home and condo sales continue to show significant year-over-year increases, belying concerns that year-over-year declines would recur after the big increases that we got in November with the people being concerned about the expiration of the home buying tax credit. Does that give you a little bit of hope here that it's not just spurred by some of these incentives, but that there is real demand for real estate?
Hope. I hope's a good word. I hope it's true. I'm not sure. I mean, I've been hearing some stories, anecdotal stories about people buying their first homes, but only being able to do it through the tax credit. So I don't know if there's a lag on that. The young people who are starting out families are the ones that really drive that market. And there's just still a lot of uncertainty about the future, whether Massachusetts is the place for them, whether they'll keep their jobs going forward.
Right.
And I think that's going to continue to be a drag as we see how this economy moves in the next 6 to 9 months.
Tim Cahill, thank you so much for joining us. Tim is the Massachusetts State Treasurer.